Good morning. Last October in Des Moines, many important prizes and awards were announced. The BIFAD Award for Scientific Excellence in a Feed the Future Innovation Lab is one of those important awards, and the winners were announced at the time. It's pertinent to recognize those working on vital issues, such as food security, and BIFAD is pleased to contribute to those efforts. The BIFAD Award for Scientific Excellence in a Feed the Future Innovation Lab is given in two categories: graduate student and senior researcher or researcher team. The principal criteria for the award are demonstrated creativity in bringing about long-lasting, sustainable improvement in international food and agriculture, evidence of sustainable increases in food security and economic growth without degradation to the environment, and success in communicating and disseminating the results to other peoples and places. I will announce the award winners. Chairman Keenum and Dr. Dunford will give them their plaque and pose for photos, and then we will hear a short presentation by each concerning the science and impact of their work. BIFAD is pleased to announce that the Senior Researcher Award goes to a team of Drs. James Beaver of the Universidad de Puerto Rico in Mayagüez and Dr. Juan Carlos Rosas of Zamorano University in Honduras. The researchers, also known as los frijoleros, I learned this morning, have collaborated for almost 30 years. The BIFAD Award criteria is focused on work over the last 10 years, so the nominator discussed the contributions over the last 10 years, and that is the basis for this award. These collaborative teams' discoveries have provided significant advances to our understanding of bean golden yellow mosaic virus and web blight. These diseases are critical constraints in growing common beans in the region. The researchers have released dozens of bean cultivars with beneficial traits. Their most recent research included studying mechanisms of how abiotic stress affects both common and taproot beans. Some of their disease-resistant varieties of beans now also have heat and drought tolerance. Dr. Beavers and Rosas have made significant contributions to improving the livelihood of the poor through scaling up and disseminating their innovations. They have focused on, quote, participatory plant breeding approaches. Not only are the genetics of their bean seeds used, but their approach to including smallholder farmer input in varietal selection is now used also worldwide. Beyond their own research accomplishments, Dr. Beavers and Rosas have conducted numerous training programs for graduate students in their field. Their accomplishments now transcend their own labs with a cadre of well-trained researchers working in universities, national and international agricultural research organizations, and the private sector in Angola, Ecuador, Guatemala, Haiti, Honduras, and Nicaragua. The team was supported by the Dry Grain Pulses CRISP, the Feed the Future Innovation Lab for Collaborative Research on Grain Legumes, and the Climate Resilient Bean Project. Dr. Irv Wieters from Michigan State University led the Innovation Lab, and please join me in congratulating him and the Innovation Lab. Dr. Wieters. Now let's proceed with the award presentation. Dr. Beaver is a professor at the University of Puerto Rico, my alma mater. He received his PhD and MS degrees from the University of Illinois and his BS degree from Purdue University. Dr. Juan Carlos Rosas is a professor and interim director of research at Escuela Agrícola Panamericana in Zamorano, Honduras. He received his PhD and MS degrees from the University of Wisconsin and his BS degrees from the National Agrarian University in Lima, Peru. Dr. Rosas was unable to be with us today, but Dr. Jeffrey Lansdale, president of Zamorano University, will receive the award for Dr. Rosas. So, Dr. Jeff Lansdale, will you please come forward?
Over on this side, please. This side.
Yep.
A little better for you.
Kate Zimmerman, okay. Zimmerman. This morning, Kate Zimmerman, also former president of Zamorano University, is joining us as well. Will Dr. Wilma Santiago also please join us? Mm-hmm.
One more. Wait. Everybody got their photos?
Yep. Before hearing from Dr. Vevers and Lansdale, I would like to introduce Dr. Wilma L. Santiago Gabrielini. She's the rectora de la Universidad de Puerto Rico in Mayagüez, where Dr. Vever works. She also brought a delegation with her. I think that Dr. Enrique Riquelme from Universidad de Puerto Rico is also here, and her husband, Dr. Francisco Paco Suarez. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Santiago.
Thank you, Dr. Cruzado. Good morning. For us at the University of Puerto Rico at Mayagüez campus, it's a privilege to participate in the meeting, honoring one of our faculty and also a friend. I'd like to congratulate Dr. James Beaver, whose productive research in plant breeding and genetics has a great impact on the field, and today he's recognized by the BIFAD Award for Scientific Excellence. As a land-grant university, we take very seriously the value of agriculture and importance of the global challenge we face in our island. The University of Puerto Rico is founded in 1911. Our agricultural science college has three main goals: educate fine professionals, serve the community through our agricultural extension service program, which has offices island-wide, and research through our 6 agricultural experimental stations. Our researchers constantly are studying new ways to improve systems, process, seek solutions, and manage problems related to the agricultural industry on our island. We are very proud of the achievement of the impact of their findings on our local farmers as well as in the world. I wish you for all the best during the BIFAD meeting and have a great journey. Thank you.
Now we will hear from the researchers themselves. I would like to call to the podium Dr. James Beaver and Dr. Lansdale for their presentation. I will preface by saying when BIFAD called me about the awards and asked me to reach out to the recipients, there was just one little problem. That was in the fall, and Hurricane Maria had just landed in Puerto Rico a week before. So the big question is, how do I contact Dr. Beaver? There were no telephones. So it was quite the feat, but through a friend of a friend of a friend, you know how that goes, right? We were able to deliver that message. So please join me in acknowledging Dr. James Beaver and welcome him to the podium for his presentation.
Well, I'd like to thank BIFAD for this award. It's a real honor on my part. And I'd like to accept this on behalf of all the team members who've worked over the years on the project. Let's see, I need to... Oops. Go back to the beginning here. Or where do I point? Oh, yeah? Okay, this is the beginning. I think that the next speaker, Jeff, will talk a bit about the impact of a project. I'd like to just perhaps spend a few minutes talking about some of the factors that have contributed to the success of our project in Central America and the Caribbean. And I want to point out one of the most important contributions is the long-term support from USAID. Continuity of effort is particularly important in a plant breeding program where you develop varieties. And with this long-term support through the CRISP projects and then later the Human Innovation Labs, we were able to anticipate trends and then deal with threats that emerged during the years. Also, I'd like to thank the capable guidance, I'm glad Irv Witters is here, of the Management Office. They made sure we followed the rules and also made the case to AID that our work is relevant to the goals of the agency. A couple of the trends that we were able to anticipate was that there's now increased production of beans in the lowlands and the humid areas, and this required us to select beans with greater tolerance to heat, and also we had to deal with a couple other diseases which are favored under these hot and humid conditions. In addition, we had to deal with the arrival of a new disease, bean common mosaic necrosis virus. It's a seed-borne disease. Pamela knows it well. And it arrived and threatened, and we were able to anticipate this problem and develop varieties with resistance to this disease. We also had a multidisciplinary group of people and included both older and younger scientists, and this combined experience with the capacity to use techniques such as marker-assisted selection, and that was very important. This is just an image of the regional group at a training last August in Zamorano. It's a very good group. Many are poorly paid public servants, but very dedicated to their bean research within their country. Something I believe is very important is that we had free exchange of germplasm among the national programs. CIAT was very important in providing material, and among our universities. We were not tied down by intellectual property issues, and that's very, very important. And I'd like to point out that Central America is a center of diversity for this crop and the source of genes. And here's just a list of a few traits of economic importance in the U.S. And I would like to point out that all of these genes or traits have sources that are from the Caribbean basin region. So another factor that worked in our favor is we're both located in the region within Central America and the Caribbean. So we were able to breed for diseases that are endemic in the region and also select for local adaptation. One of the examples here is bean golden yellow mosaic virus resistant disease. This is bean golden yellow mosaic virus, which is a tropical disease. It's serious within the region, and we were able to select for that disease resistance under our conditions. In addition, we were able to do our work in tropical soils, so what we were able to study was relevant to our colleagues within the region. Also, we built on an existing network of researchers. This has started out with support from the Swiss Development Corporation, COSUDI, and we used funds later on to continue this regional effort. And we were able to maintain a regional focus, and I think that allowed us to extend the impact of our project. And also by conducting regional trials, we obtained more information that increased our confidence in the performance of lines when they were released. Also, the capacity to produce seed in Zamorano is very important, because when we had a variety which is potential candidate for release, we could rapidly increase seed production. And also the commitment of both UPR and Zamorano to education, I think, facilitated both our formal and informal training activities. And the fact that we offer training in Spanish, I think allowed us to train a larger pool of technical personnel. I'd like to end, since this is a conference on resilience, putting in my 2 cents worth on a couple of things. In the last 30 years when we've been working, I've dealt with a number of these unlikely negative events. We've had Hurricane Mitch in Central America, in Haiti. They've had hurricanes, they've had earthquakes, they've had cholera outbreaks. And I know these are very disruptive to our efforts in development. And having spent 4 months without electricity, I know that systems, especially electrical grids, need to be robust to deal with these unlikely events. Another point that was raised in the book, The Black Swan, is that redundancy is more important than optimization. And I'd like to say this is important in the context of seed systems, in that production of seed on farms is very important by farmers and farmer organizations, but it really does need to be backed up by a strategic reserve of seed. So when there is a disaster, you can rapidly ramp up production of seed and respond to these negative events. I'd like to thank BIFAD again, and I forgot, and it's most important, I'd like to thank my wife for putting up with all the travel and serving also as a professor and mentor for many of the trainees. Thanks again for this honor.
Thank you, Dr. Beaver. I will end by saying, antes, ahora y siempre, colegio. Now, it is now my distinct pleasure to introduce Dr. Jeff Lansdale, President of Universidad de Zamorano.
Good morning, and I'm a poor substitute for Dr. Juan Carlos Rosas. I apologize for that. This is Juan Carlos Rosas on the screen, and when I talked to him about coming up to receive this important award, he said, Jeff, I'm just a little too busy in the field right now. If you don't mind, you have nothing to do. Why don't you go up and receive it on my behalf? So he wanted to be sure that I thanked BIFAD and USAID for this recognition. And just behind Juan Carlos Rosas is a plaque, and it's a classroom, which we'll see the inside of it in a little bit, but it's been named after Juan Carlos Rosas. I wanted to be sure to share with you that, yes, internationally, Juan Carlos and Jim Beaver and Mr. Amadou are recognized for their work, but at Zamorano, we also recognize our own. So Juan Carlos Rosas, the founder of the Bean Research Program at Zamorano since 1988, but really what I would like to do here is focus more on the human side of the likes of Jim Beaver, Juan Carlos Rosas, Mr. Amadou, the holistic effort that goes into the work in developing new legume varieties, the resilience. This, as Jim said, the impact of this work in the field, Juan Carlos Rosas, working closely with Jim Beaver, have developed over 30 years, more than 60 varieties of beans. These varieties increasingly resistant to drought, the surprises, if you will, of climate change, increased nutritional value, up to 30% more iron content and 10% more zinc content, important in countries where anemia is a serious problem for young children. You can see On the screen, over 200,000 farm families in the region, not just Central America, but also South America and the Caribbean, are in fact cultivating bean crops using seeds which have been developed by Jim and Juan Carlos. And we have done studies to over the years, the financial impact of these beans and the farm agricultural sector in this region is over $350 million. Our appreciation to Juan Carlos Rosas, as maybe you can see on the screen here, over 3,000 students have received classes from Juan Carlos Rosas, which is one reason he is not with us today. He's in class, and in fact, I'm hoping that they are connected through live stream down at Zamorano, and if they are, Dr. Rosas, un saludo a usted and our students and faculty who are joining us in spirit from Zamorano. You can also see that we have 50 graduates who are studying master's and PhD degrees, mostly in the United States, some in Europe and also in Latin America. Juan Carlos Rosas has been the coordinator of the Central America and Caribbean Bean Research Network, and yes, a host of other good work that he does. This is the inside of the Juan Carlos Rosas classroom at the Zamorano campus, and we are joined here by a group of USDA employees, as well as Jim Beaver standing next to Juan Carlos. And on that occasion that they visited us, which was about a month ago, they were over to the house for lunch, and we served bean soup. So it was a white bean that has been developed by Jim Beaver in Puerto Rico, and he sent Juan Carlos some samples, and Juan Carlos cultivated them at Zamorano. White beans are not in demand in Honduras, but they are in demand in our home, and we had a great lunch. Jim, thank you for joining us. You cannot go down. Oh, there, okay. So when I talk about the holistic side, a lot of the work that Jim and Juan Carlos do, and I imagine Mr. Amadou is with farmers. And I would like to share with you this event with farmers, and this is a song that they composed for Juan Carlos Rosas. So I asked Juan Carlos Rosas if there was any special message that he would like to share with you today. And he said first to be sure to thank the trustees from Zamorano who join us, Kate Semerad, former president of our board, Luis Packer from Ecuador, and former Ambassador Frank Almaguer. Thank you for being with us. But he also said, please emphasize that all the work that we have been able to do would not have been possible without the support of Zamorano. And it's sure great to be in Washington, D.C. and in this lovely building. I would like to suggest that the next meeting of BIFAD maybe take place at Zamorano, but since we can't be there today, we will close with a short video of Zamorano in expression of Juan Carlos's appreciation to Zamorano for all the work that he has been able to do. Every day at Zamorano starts at 5 o'clock with the ringing of this bell for our students.
Even before the sun rises, students at Zamorano University are preparing for another day of academic challenges and hard work in the field. The inspiring story of over 10,000 acres dedicated to teaching and learning in the American tropics has been shining as a beacon of hope in Latin America for more than 75 years. Active and restless, these students learn to value a job well done. At Zamorano, students learn that a strong work ethic makes all the difference in life. They learn to love and appreciate the land as they discover its secrets in the field. They learn the scientific fundamentals of environmental conservation, agricultural production, food science technology, and responsible agribusiness and entrepreneurship. They are being nurtured as the guardians of our planet's sustainability. As the sun peaks over the mountains surrounding this valley, agriculture comes to life. Grains, vegetables, and fruit are cultivated, harvested, and prepared for market. Through 44 learning by doing modules, rigorous coursework, and a disciplined commitment to teamwork and excellence, young women and men are transformed into enterprising professionals. Zamorano graduates are recognized throughout Latin America for their leadership, initiative, and contributions to socioeconomic development. By constantly challenging our students for 4 years, 11 months each year, 6 days a week, Zamorano has cultivated leadership in generations of farm producers who lead by example. Their immersion in constant innovation and the culmination of their studies with a research thesis prepares them for the scientific challenges and opportunities of daily life. By living on campus and sharing this multicultural experience with students and faculty from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds of 23 nationalities, Zamorano graduates return to their own countries and communities with the confidence and awareness of knowledge, caring, and inspired global citizens. The sun will continue to rise over the mountains surrounding this valley, and Zamorano will continue to transform Latin American youth into successful entrepreneurs and leaders of change, innovation, and progress. Every Zamorano graduate forms a part of this beacon of hope.
Thank you, President Lansdale, for an outstanding presentation. And again, congratulations to Dr. Rosas. And Mr. Chair, I think that I will formalize that invitation into a motion to BIFAD. BIFAD is now pleased to give the Graduate Student Award to Mr. Laulali Amadou. The focus of Mr. Amadou's work has been to develop scale-up culture procedures for beneficial parasitic insects that can be released to help control the millet head miner, a major chronic insect pest, which can lead to an 85% reduction of crop yield for pearl millet, a main staple crop in the Sahel. Mr. Amadou has also evaluated when it's the best time to release these beneficial insects that attack the millet head miner and the optimum number of parasitoids to be released. The growth and release of the beneficial biocontrol insects will help facilitate the establishment of a cottage industry to prevent and/or limit damage of the millet head miner. Mr. Amadou and his colleagues have conducted a preliminary study to determine the economic viability of this approach. Pearl millet yields were increased by 34% as compared to farms that did not use the technology. Mr. Amadou helped set up pilot studies with farmer groups in villages, individual smallholder farmers, and NGOs that work with farmers to evaluate the economic viability of the technology. Mr. Amadou's work clearly demonstrated the scalability of the technology. Economic benefits in Niger were estimated to be more than $200 million annually, if only 30% of millet farmers used the technology. He has worked with a consortium of scientists from Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and Senegal on the biological control approach, helping spread the results regionally. Mr. Amadou is a PhD candidate at the University of Maradi in Niger, and is also a junior scientist at the Institut National de la Recherche Agronomique du Niger. He received his MS degree from the University of Niamey in Niger and his BS from the Amadou Bello University of Zaria in Nigeria. He works in the Feed the Future Sorghum and Millet Innovation Lab, and he had a 6-month sandwich training at Virginia Tech University focused on insect behavior and ecology. It's easy to see how the intensive research training at Virginia Tech really made a difference in the development of this technology. Dr. Tim Dalton from the Feed the Future Sorghum and Millet Innovation Lab at Kansas State University is in the audience. Please join me in congratulating the Innovation Lab on this honor. And Dr. Muni Muniapan from Virginia Tech University is also in the audience, and he hosted Mr. Amadou's training on insect behavior. Dr. Muniapan is also a former BIFAD award winner, and please join me in congratulating him. At this moment, will Mr. Amadou please come forward to receive their plaques from Dr. Dunford and Chairman Keenum. We would like to call Mr. Laulani. Do you have a presentation for us, Mr. Laulani? I mean, Mr. Amadou? Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and thank you. I really have an amazing feeling. Thank you, BIFAD, to honor me, and thank you, USAID. I would like, my accent is not good. I will try to communicate. I would like to thank Dr. Muni, one of our advisors, that I am in triangle advisor with Professor Bawa and Dr. Malik from ICRISAT. So they really, Muni, in person of me at Virginia Tech, they helped me, they guided me, they squeezed me to produce this result. Thank you so much. I'm going to talk about the biological control of pearl millet head mina in Niger. Niger is located in a landlocked country with a population of over 20 million. We have one cropping season. Then the population is consisted of many ethnic groups. We have the highest group population of the world. Then 80% of the population rely on agriculture, and agriculture provides about 50% of the income. Pearl millet is a staple food of Sahelian countries. So here we have a pearl millet field. Then it's very nutritious and very important source of iron and zinc. Then millet is growing all over the world. Niger is the third largest producer of the millet after India and Nigeria. Millet is processed in many diets. I have a lot of slides, so I will be quick, I will be fast for some, then I will be slow at the end of the presentation. That's what I'm not providing details. So millet is also used to feed animals like cattle and chicken. Then the yield of millet in Niger is very low, less than 500 kilograms per hectare. due to the several production constraints. The most and chronic constraint is millet head manna. Then the millet head manna, it started when 1 month after planting the millet, the adult will lay eggs on the spike. Then the eggs will hatch and give you larvae. The larvae destroy the spike, and at the maturity, it will fall into the ground. It will remain in the ground till the next growing season. Then here we have the pictures of a typically damaged field, which the yield loss may reach up to 85%. Then most of the time, the early planted millets and the early maturing varieties are the most infested by the pests. Then we have several control methods from pesticide, cultural management, and plant resistance. But these control methods are less adopted by farmers due to the economic condition and the non-sustainability to the environment. Then we have a native parasite, which is Habrobracon ebetor. That is a native and causes a significant mortality of the pests. But its paroxysm occurs late in the season when most of the panicles are already damaged. We have the pictures of it's a teeny wasp. Then we have the developing eggs on the died caterpillar of the millet head manna. Then since 2006, we have been developing this technology. We have a colony of the Habrobracon, the parasite, that were established and maintained a laboratory on alternate host, which is rice moth. Then at 3 countries in Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Senegal. Then the laboratory host is rare on mixture of the millet and flour and grains. Then we transfer the technology to farmers' field by developing a release bag. The release bag is a Ghanaian bag of like 15 by 25 centimeter, in which you have to put a millet powder and a millet grain inside. Then you have to add 25 larvae and 2 mated female. Then you have to close and keep the bag to stay for a night. Then the following day, the release bag is ready to be placed in the farmer's field. Then you can, a set of 15 bags is enough to cover like 70,000 hectares. Then we have to suspend the bags in set of 15, either in calabash, in grouse, in granary, or you can recycle a bucket to hide the bags against the rain and sun. So when you suspended the bag in the granary, 1 week later, the insect will emerge, where they will emerge through the mesh bag and target the pest. They sting the pest, then they will lay egg on the body of the larvae. Then later, the progeny will be developed and scattered in millet fields. Then at the end, if you evaluate, you will see a cocoon attached to the dead larvae. This is a sign of the parasitoid. Then the technology was assessed, was tested in 3 countries. We have a percentage parasitism of about 90% compared to the control villages. Then when we made economic assessments, we recorded like a gain of 34%. Then here we have the pictures of a destroyed panicle. Then we have the pictures of saved panicles. Then we have a relationship between the rainfall. The rainfall is less than 100 millimeters a year in the country. So we have a relationship. The higher the amount of rainfall, the higher of infestation rates in the country. We also surveyed and identified 2 additional parasitoids, which are ex-parasitoids that they were identified with the help of Dr. Gren from USDA. Thank you for him. So we tested them on the station. We have a parasitation of like 70%. Then remember that I have said before we were rearing the rice moth on millets. So several studies show that if you fortify the diet with protein source, you can increase the production of the larvae at the laboratory. So we fortify the diet with different level of cowpea. We found that by fortifying with cowpea powder of 50%, you can double or triple the village to be covered by technology. Here we have the millet developmental stage. We have vegetative stage, flowering, grain filling, and maturity stage. Then we have to answer farmer how many insects that we are going to release and when this insect parasitoid should be released in the field, because previous study did not explore how many insects to release and when to be released. So to answer this question, I and the colleague, we have conducted like experimental for during 3 years. So we release the parasitoid at different stage, at spike stage, flowering stage, grain filling stage. So we have that the spinicle stage recorded the highest parasitation level. Then we also release different number of the parasitoid, like 400, 800, 1600 on control village. So we obtain the highest parasitation with 1600 parasitoid, but it does not differ from 800. Therefore, we are recommending to farmer to release 800, which is equivalent to 12 release bags. The technology is effective. It was tested, but there's no enterprise in my country who will make it available to farmers. So we established 8 cottage industry with farmer community. So each year, we invited this cottage industry at the laboratory. I trained them with the help of technician. So we create like a job of 50 person, but it's temporary because it's only during three months from July to September. Then this cottage industry, they produce more than 9,000 from 2015 to 2016, more than 9,000 release bags. We have the map which is showing the location where the bags were placed in Niger during the 2015 and 2016. Then this cottage industry, they produce the bag and sold the bags to farmer, to NGO, to projects. Then during the 3 years, they produced more than 14,000 of bags that were sold at $58,000. Then the cost of production of one bag is $1.2, which is sold at $3 to $4. Then if to start the business, 600 is enough for the initial capital to start the business. Then we assess the evaluation benefits of this approach by George Norton and his student. They make a study, then they discover that the estimated benefit is 20 million over 20 years. So for conclusion, for the work that we have conducted, we have seen fortifying the millet with 50%. It will allow us to double the production of the host at the laboratory. Then we identify 2 egg parasitoids. We recommended to farmer to release 12 bags is enough to cover the millet. Then we are recommended to start placing the bag at panicle emergence. Then the 8 community cottage industry we established, they are operational. Then they were able to cover 4 million of millet hectares. The way forward, now we are supposed to open a gate to the youth from yesterday's presentation. So in our approach, we involve only 2% of the youth. So we are going to open a gate to youth for this cottage industry. So we are going to combine the release of eggs and larval parasites together. We are going to work with the farmer organization for the sustainability of this approach. Then we are going to first, because farm armyworm is reported on millets, so we have to focus our research on farm armyworm. Then we have to test the egg parasitoid on other crops. Thank you for listening my bad English. Thank you so much. Thank you.
One more time, let's give another round of applause to our winners.